Hi, welcome to Face to Face. I'm Greg Campling. Today we're talking to Andrew Burry from the Victorian AIDS Council, who is the fundraising representative. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Greg. Nice to meet you.
Welcome along. So tell us about Victorian AIDS Council and how it all began.
Well, the Victorian AIDS Council began in 1983 as a community response to the looming HIV/AIDS crisis, which had started in America at that time. It started off as a Victorian AIDS Action Committee and became the Victorian AIDS Council. So we've been going for over 22 years now, I think that is. And we're very much a community-based organisation, dependent on volunteers, and work very, much in the HIV/AIDS area.
So how is the Victorian AIDS Council funded?
We get a lot of funding from the Department of Human Services, so that's the main bulk of our funding. But that provides just infrastructure and some people. But much of the programs that we do, we need to raise funds for outside within the community.
So how did you decide to join the Victorian AIDS Council?
Well, that's quite a long story. I hope you don't mind. But I wanted to volunteer. I've known many people who've had contact with the Victorian AIDS Council, and I've seen firsthand how much they've been able to benefit by that. And I thought it'd be a good place to, offer some volunteering. And so I rang them up and said I'd like to be a volunteer. And the very next day I went out for dinner with some advertising people, and we were just sort of chatting. Someone drank from my glass. And when I said, so that's my glass, he said, "Oh, I hope you haven't got AIDS." And I thought to myself, God, is this how far we've come? Anyway, the day after that, I just happened to be looking through the newspaper and I saw the position of fundraising coordinator advertised, and I thought, it wouldn't be bad to go home every day after work and feel you've done something sort of a bit more worthwhile than what I was currently doing. So I applied, and here I am.
Now, you're here to talk about World AIDS Week, which is 24 November to 1 December, which 1 December is, of course, World AIDS Day. Mm-hmm. So what's the Victorian AIDS Council doing to make people more aware during 24 November to 1 December?
Okay, well, the Victorian AIDS Council, of course, is just one of many organisations in the Victorian community that assists people who either have HIV/AIDS, or in our case, we also work very hard to help prevent the spread of HIV/AIDS. So in some ways, we have World AIDS Day every day because we're dealing with the issues every day. But once a year, it's really good for us to just focus on the fact that it's easy for something that's been around for 20 years to just drop out of people's consciousness. So for this week, we like to raise a lot of events and get a message out into the community that HIV/AIDS isn't something that's been dealt with or gone away. It's in fact, it's a growing problem because, to put it, I guess, a bit harshly, in the early days when people got HIV, they got AIDS, and mostly they died. But with the when antiretroviral drugs came around in the late 90s, of course, people now are able to live with HIV. So you've got a growing population of HIV positive because there are still, new infections every year. So the work that we're required to do as the Victorian AIDS Council has become more complicated, and the demand on our services just continues to grow. So what we really like to do during AIDS Awareness Week is make sure that we get a message out there that this is something that we all need to be aware of. And of course, the population at large knows about AIDS because it's a huge international pandemic of affecting 40 million people worldwide. So it's just a focal point.
Right. Now, are there any particular events that come to mind that you'll be doing?
Yes, well, as I say, there's a lot of organisations that get involved in AIDS Awareness Week. One of the major events is the annual concert in Federation Square that's put on by the Burnett Institute, which is a major research organisation. That happens on the 27th of November from 9 p.m. And then there's a lot of community events through the GLBT venues, through the LED and DTs. They run awareness programs as well, and we have a general communication program that we get out.
You're giving away, they're selling the usual badges for the AIDS awareness, the red ribbon.
Ribbons, yeah.
And also we've got this wonderful T-shirt here, which says HIV AIDS, let's talk about it, World AIDS Day, 1 December. And there's these little bracelets, the camera can't quite zoom in, but they're the latest trend, aren't they?
Yes, indeed. I think they look very nice.
The rubber bracelets. And how much do they cost to buy?
The white ones actually are free, so we'll be distributing those at events through AIDS Awareness Week and on World AIDS Day, and the T-shirts, of course, be distributed as well. I should say that the World AIDS Day is a Commonwealth Government program, so the HIV AIDS Let's Talk About it is a theme that is run right across Australia and organised and funded by the Commonwealth Government, organised locally through the DHS here in Victoria, and then we, the Victorian AIDS Council and other organisations, then work directly in the community to get it all happening. But Let's Talk About It obviously is just a reminder that we need to keep focusing on this because it's still a major issue.
Right. You're watching Face to Face. I'm Greg Campling, and we have Andrew Burry with us from the Victorian AIDS Council. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Face to Face. I'm Greg Campling. Today we're talking to the fundraising coordinator from the Victorian AIDS Council, Andrew Burry. Now, Andrew, we were talking earlier about World AIDS Week, 24 November to 1 December, which is World AIDS Day. Now, in your role as the fundraising coordinator, what are the things that you've started to do to raise money?
There's a whole variety of areas where we need to raise money because, as I mentioned earlier, there's so much more demand on our services. But the really important principle for us is that the money comes from the community, and for that to happen, we've really got to engage with the community. And in engaging with the community, we've got to be an accessible organisation, and people have got to understand and value what we do because. If you're going to give $1 to somebody or a couple of dollars to somebody, you want to feel sure that it's something that's that's what that's good, that you feel good about. So a big part of what we're trying to do now is get information about us out there.
So if I wanted to participate in some way, volunteering, what are the areas at the Victorian AIDS Council that I could become involved in?
There's a huge number of opportunities. Of course, fundraising. We're always looking for volunteers, and right now we're particularly looking for people to help in the Red Ribbon program through AIDS Awareness Week. So we'd encourage everybody to get involved in that. It's a really important part of what we do. So there's many events during the year that we organise that we need volunteers for in the fundraising area. The other key areas where we use volunteers is in health promotion, and in also the delivery of services to HIV positive people, care and support. But there's really anybody, we can generally put anybody that contacts us to very good use.
Now, you were talking about the red ribbon. Where does the red ribbon come from? Who decided to have the red ribbon?
Well, as I understand it, initially there was this. You remember the tire yellow ribbon around the old oak tree? Well, when AIDS first hit in America, they used a red ribbon, so it was a big red ribbon round a tree. But here in Victoria, we got the idea of using a small red ribbon that you could wear, and in our case, it's a little V like that, which is, if you like, you know, an upside down V that one day will be victory against HIV/AIDS. So that's really what it means. But it's been 20 years. 20 years. It's a very powerful symbol for us and for our community.
Areas that you need donations for.
One of the very important things we do is, well, one of our important programs, I should say, is something called the David Williams Fund, which is quite well known. What that does is provide emergency financial assistance to people living with HIV/AIDS, excuse me, who, you know, with extra costs and other problems they may be encountering. Employment can be difficult, social isolation can be difficult. And so David Williams Fund is there to provide emergency relief. And we provide about $120,000 every year to people who need it. Now that's what we can afford. That doesn't say that's all that's required. So fundraising for David Williams Fund is a very important part of what we do. And we have a number of events through the year that directly support that. And I might say also that the sale of red ribbons through AIDS Awareness Week and World AIDS Day, all that money, every cent of every dollar collected goes directly to the David Williams Fund and therefore directly to people who need it.
Now, volunteering in any organisation can make you feel really good inside. How do you personally feel in your new role and what you're now contributing to the Victorian AIDS Council?
I think I've come to see volunteering as in a different way since I've become involved in the Victorian AIDS Council. One of the things I did when I first got there was to seek out all the people who'd been involved for a long period of time to get a sense of the history and the heritage of the organisation. And when I was doing that, I found that we had volunteers that had been, you know, with the Victorian AIDS Council for 10, 15 or more years. And that's an enormous commitment. And sitting down and talking to those people, it's just breathtaking, some of the stories that they can tell you about the community commitment to helping ourselves, I suppose, essentially, since it's largely confined to our community. And, you know, and I mean, for people to have given that much, I just think is awesome. And so today, you know, we're still recruiting volunteers. We've got a fantastic volunteer coordinator, Jane Livingston, who's a real sweetie, has the office next door to me. So
we're your best friends.
We have an intercom which is just involving want a coffee, shouting out, you know. But she's bringing a really new and exciting. I don't want to use, maybe the professional is not the right word, but a much more structured approach to volunteering, because a lot of what volunteers are required to do is quite specialist, and you can't just send people out to do jobs without providing them training. And we also want volunteers to have a sense of progression and development, because it is a way of getting which can be used outside of work that they might do with VAC. So that the whole idea of volunteering and indeed fundraising is all about community engagement, and we've literally got hundreds of volunteers.
You're watching Face to Face. I'm Greg Campling. We're talking to Andrew Burry, the fundraising coordinator from the Victorian AIDS Council. We'll be back after these messages. Hi, welcome back to Face to Face. I'm Greg Campling, and we're talking to Andrew Burry from the Victorian AIDS Council. He's the fundraising coordinator. Now, Andrew, tell us about you. What was your life before you started working for the Victorian AIDS Council?
Well, it was less interesting, I can say that. Look, I've got a pretty much corporate background, spent time in large companies and then wandered around doing airport information systems. And then right before I was joined the Victorian AIDS Council, I was a consultant.
What sort of consultant?
For franchising. So it was actually interesting because I was helping a lot of small businesses and, you know, had big plans. So it was more personal in that sense. I guess that was satisfying. But at the end of the day, helping someone to make money is, I don't know, I had a bit of...
If you're not getting any of it, it's not that exciting.
Well, I was getting paid, so I suppose I was getting some of it. But yeah, it was just became a bit boring, and it just was great that they had an opportunity to do something that was more worthwhile. I feel good about it.
It makes a big difference when you're actually contributing personally to an organisation and a job. It's not just a job though, is it? Even though you get paid a wage, doing something like fundraising coordinator for the Victorian AIDS Council would be very self-rewarding compared to a 9-to-5 job pushing paper. It
is. I mean, it's different to what I expected in some respects. Well, of course, I've had the opportunity of meeting you, Greg. That's been one bonus. But it's been interesting from the point of view that I had a positive attitude about VAC before I went, because I mentioned earlier, you know, I've known so many people who've accessed the services and spoken highly about it. But I had no idea, really, I had no idea how much the VAC does. And you know, once I got in there, you know, I mean, and even now, even after being there a few months, I still find new things that we do. It's just extraordinary.
Now, there are a lot of things that the Victorian AIDS Council do that people like myself and everyone else wouldn't know. We immediately think Victorian AIDS Council, or they somehow help people with HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that the Victorian AIDS Council does?
Well, our official title actually is the Victorian AIDS Council / Gay Men's Health Centre. So we're pretty focused on gay men's health, I guess, you know, in particular. But we do go way beyond that in terms of trying to be accessible to anybody in the community, GLBTIQ community. And you know, like some of the things we do that people perhaps don't realise is, you know, we deliver 100 or so counselling sessions every day, 51 weeks a year. You know, we produce 100 or more hot meals a week. We give out $2,500 I mean, we provide $2,500 of emergency financial assistance every week. But on top of all that, you know, we're like a kind of a pivot around which a lot of other community organisations sit. And because we've been going for a long time and we've built up a lot of infrastructure, we're able to support many other more specialised organisations, whether that's Greek and Gay or Positive Women or Straight Arrows or the Gay and Lesbian Switchboard. And we can help them by providing space and resources and at times accounting support, financial support, fundraising support. So we do all those sorts of things for a huge range of organisations, including Bent TV. I mean, you come and meet down at our building in South Yarra.
Right.
So you know, it's we should be accessible by everybody within the GLBTIQ community.
So if anybody actually wants to volunteer or actually is in need of counselling services or advice, they can call the Victorian AIDS Council and be put in touch with the right area to...
Yeah, and it's a very safe place to contact, because we are a community-based organisation within that specific community, which means you're going to get a sensitive person on the phone who's going to understand where you're coming from. So it's not like going maybe along to a local doctor and you don't know what their attitude to this or attitude to that is. I mean, at VAC, we don't have attitudes.
No attitudes at all?
Well, you know, we're an organisation, of course we have some, but in terms of our interface with our clients and potential clients, no. We have, you know, like the big rule is no judgment, no discrimination, none of that.
And that's a very important area too. I mean, I can imagine someone who has just discovered that they're HIV positive and may or may not have many close friends or family as support. Obviously, they would be referred to the Victorian AIDS Council and their services?
Well, not obviously, unfortunately. I mean, it depends. It depends on their doctor. The doctor may not even know enough about us, or may not be as aware of HIV/AIDS and what it means to a person to even think to refer them to us. So, part of what we do is get the word out to other practitioners and hospitals and medical centres as well, so that they're encouraged to refer people to us because we have the expertise to help.
Does the medical profession actually refer quite a few people to the
Yeah,
Victorian AIDS Council?
increasingly. And another thing that we do is we actually run 2 medical clinics of our own in St Kilda and Northcote. So we actually have a very, GLBT sensitive medical centre where people can go to. And of course, people, have opportunities to contact us without having an HIV issue.
Well, like you were saying with the clinic, I mean, you can still go along to the clinic and have a HIV test.
Absolutely. And again,
or any other health issues, and feel quite comfortable because you're dealing with doctors and nursing staff that are very gay, lesbian, bisexual,
sensitive
transgender
to whatever issues and non-judgmental. But a lot of issues to do with being gay is a coming out issue, cultural issues, and all those things can affect self-esteem and create isolation and all those other kinds of problems. So part of what we also do is provide forums and workshops and counselling for people to deal with all that, to make them as whole a person and to live as full a life as possible. And in the event that someone does become HIV positive, well, of course that's where we're very specialised.
Do you think that in society today, with regard to HIV and AIDS, that people are more aware of and know where to go to get assistance and help?
I'm not sure that I'm qualified to give a sort of good answer on that. I can give a sort of personal view, I suppose. I think it's varied. I think people of my generation and maybe a little bit younger. I mean, we were there when our friends were dying, and so we had a very personal connection with all that. And so we've maintained an interest. But now that it's not such a headline thing, I would worry that perhaps people don't see it as seriously as perhaps they could. And I'm not sure that as many people as could see the VAC as a community resource in the way that it is.
Now, if people want to get in touch with the Victorian AIDS Council, they can contact through the website, which is
www.vicaids.asn.au, or for World AIDS Day there's a special website which is worldaidsday.org.au.
And they're both on your screen at the moment.
And of course, they're always welcome to call us on 9865 6700. And I'd just like to make one big plea for anybody who wants to get involved in World AIDS Day and or AIDS Awareness Week this year. Please call. We really want to get red ribbons out there. And it's not just about the money, but we've got a city of 4 million people. How many people can we get to wear a red ribbon on December 1 this year? I mean,
so everyone should be wearing their red ribbons.
Well,
and you can buy the T-shirts, and also the free bracelets will be given away. Which
no, you can just ring me. I'll give you a T-shirt if you ring me up, and I'll give you a wristband too.
You're watching Face to Face. I'm Greg Campling. We've been talking to Andrew Burry from the Victorian AIDS Council, who's the fundraising coordinator. Thank you. Goodbye.